John.
Eric. We're late again.
I feel like it's been a long time.
Well, it's only been a week. Did we record early or late last week? I feel like we recorded.
We've recorded Thursdays for the last 3 weeks.
Okay. There we go.
As today is yet another Thursday.
It is yet another Thursday. Life gets in the way.
Uh-huh.
But that's okay. So, how was camping?
I'm done camping.
Ready to sleep in your own bed?
No, it was a lot of fun. And where to start? So the fun stuff. We did a lot of mountain biking. That was fun. We went down to Central Oregon. We did some hiking. We hiked up to the Tam MacArthur Rim view, which is gorgeous. It's between I'm saying nearby, I should say, Broken Top and South Sister mountains. And you get to the top and it's just this flat plateau and you can see, it was a beautiful day, blue skies. This was yesterday, Wednesday. You could see forever. It was a lot of fun.
That's
but
awesome.
My knees are tired. My knees are reminding me that I am not as young as I think I am.
Yeah, you're not a 10th grader?
No, I am not my boy. No, but all good. Our tent, unfortunately, somehow in the field where we pitched our tent, we must have right on some, I don't know, would it be a nest of box elder bugs? Or, there were, when we took the tent off between the bottom of the tent and the tarp I had laid on the ground, literally thousands of those little black and red box elder bugs. And to my dismay, some of the boys got excited and started stomping on them and squishing them into my tarp before I could say, hey, let's just flip the tarp around and, flip them off the tarp. So that involved extra cleaning. I think I got home around 2:00 today and wasn't done unpacking and cleaning until after 6.
Wow.
So it was, a long day, long drive, but it was fun. I am ready to go back to work though. 3 weeks is a long time.
Yes, it is.
To be busy.
But that's cool. Well, we've missed you, so good to have you back. Good to have you back, and thanks for being creative and managing to continue to record every week.
It just seemed to work out.
Well played.
Slots seemed to open up just at the right time, so
it's perfect.
It's worked out.
It's perfect.
So that was my week. How was your week?
Well, my weekend was a bit harder work than I expected it to be, but I guess I didn't really know what to expect. So as normal, I was more optimistic. I should have doubled the time I expected. So my Saturday,
you failed in your Scotty theory, huh?
Yeah, no, the project that I was set to do on Saturday was to take down a yurt. So
where was the yurt?
The yurt was on the campus, the farm of my kids' school. Okay. Their old school, at least, I guess. They don't go there anymore. And the school was getting rid of it, so we actually bought it like a couple months ago. But their ask was basically that we get rid of it, get it off the property, and so they could do some tree work, and there's some other stuff that they want to do like in this summer. And I've been trying to schedule it, and there's been some issues, but I got a yurt guy, I guess.
A yurt guy.
They didn't quite know they existed, but ironically, some other people that we knew had a yurt put in their backyard not too long ago, last summer or something like that. And so we asked, or I asked her, hey, who'd you have do that? And so she gave me his name. So I called him up and he came out, and then I took myself and brought a friend, my kids, and basically we were manual labor, and he's the brains of the operation, and I was just there to help. We started at 10, which was late. Like, if we had been smart, we would have started at 7, but my buddy couldn't be there until later, and I thought that more hands, make lighter work, and that would have been nice. So we basically started at 10, and it was really warm. Like it was really hot. So we got, and it's a pretty big yurt. It's like 24 feet in diameter. So
wow, that is a big one.
It's maybe 20. I should know that. I'll say 20 so that so I'm underestimating instead of overestimating.
I'm doing pi r squared. That's big.
It's it's big. And and the tricky bit is that a yurt's like a yurt is a round house with that's kind of like it's built on like the arch principle, right? So you've got this dome at the top, and everything kind of hangs on the dome, and actually there was a bunch of stuff I learned because I didn't quite know how they were put together. But anyway, we got up, we took it down. The trickiest part was basically we got all the supports down except for 4, one on each of the quadrants, basically, and then you're left with this, this round thing at the top and 4 things. And so we had 2 ladders, 2 of us up on each ladder with this big ring kind of on our shoulders, so we could kind of basically hold it in place while they took down 2 of the other things, and then we could kind of like just rotate it down. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to put it back up is what's going to be interesting. But
you going to get the same help to put it back up?
Well, I will have your dude, me, and my boys for sure. And maybe my wife will come out or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Your dude.
I don't know. But let's just suffice to say that 3:30 when we were like broiling out there, and we had the yurt itself down, but then we're kind of taking apart the platform that it was on. We were like, this would be a lot more pleasant tomorrow morning at 7:00. and so we did. We called it a day, and then I didn't have any. It was just he and I the next day. But we started at 7 and got done by 10. So it was not, I guess, a terrible. I totally thought we would have the whole thing apart and loaded on Saturday, and we just did not. And it was not for lack of working hard. We were hoofing it, but yeah. So, and I had to borrow a friend's trailer. So I had 2 16-foot flatbed trailers that, and we loaded up both of them.
That's a lot of yurt.
It was a lot of yurt. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see.
Okay. Do you have plans on where you're going to put it?
I do. So we have a little bit of property out on the coast or towards the coast.
Right.
And we had considered building a house out there at some point, but then life has gotten away from us, and we have not built a house out there, and aren't going to for who knows how long. So we're going to have a yurt out there. So
okay,
I have put in power. I have put in septic. I need a well pump, and then I'll have water, power, and septic, and I'll have a yurt.
And a yurt.
In another month, if you want to go out and stay in the yurt, I will give you a key and give you directions. but it will be fun. It will be primitive. I gotta like, I still have work to do but it's a project.
Well, we've stayed at the yurts that the Oregon State Park System runs. Yeah. They're a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I like a yurt.
Yeah, that's all I'm planning on, basically.
Nice.
Build a couple bunk beds maybe, and eventually a sink or a little framed in bathroom. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it'll be fun. But cool. It was a lot of work, and it's still going to be. It's going to be harder to put it back than it was to take it down. I think so.
That's usually the way of things.
That is the way of things. Yeah. All right, my friend. How about I didn't even look for follow up this week.
I To be honest, I'm just lucky I had anything. I had scattered internet access this last week, so
I figured that I knew that I had texted you once or twice, and you're like, yeah, when I'm not on a mountain, I have internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, hey. So what'd you pull for topics?
So I have two. The first one is just a quick note. If you use Instagram, so Instagram was bought by Facebook. I deleted my Facebook account. I don't know how many years ago. It's been within the last 3 because I think I said so on the podcast at some point.
I feel like you said that. Yep.
But I am not as avid an Instagram user as I used to be. I will occasionally look at pictures posted by family because family's all on Instagram. But Instagram has announced they're rolling out a new security feature to help users secure compromised accounts if that happens to you. It's called Security Checkup. Apparently, it's very similar to what they already do with Facebook. I wouldn't know because I don't have the Facebook anymore. The thing that is interesting to me is that the new feature, you just can't go to your device and run a security checkup. It will only appear, it appears, if I'm reading this information correctly, that it will only appear whenever Instagram detects something suspicious happening on your account, or if there are signs of some kind of compromise. So it's not like I can go into my settings and run a security checkup. You
can't be proactive.
No, it's something happens on the back end, and Facebook or Instagram decides this may look like something's bad has happened, and they'll work you through the process, whatever that is. It's the same. Hey, you should get 2-factor authentication. You should enable your login request feature. I'm not sure what that is. Make sure your email and phone numbers are correct, as those are tied to your accounts. But if you are an Instagram user, sounds like there's some additional features to help users with hacked Instagram accounts. So we'll see.
Semi-related to that, only in the sense that it's about account security. I saw some stats from Twitter this week that only 2.7% of Twitter accounts had 2-factor enabled. And of those, I didn't prepare this, but 60% were using SMS as their second factor. That, there's such a long way to go.
It's a hard problem to solve. It's, making sure that it's you and only you, and 2-factor is hard for some people, and quality passwords hard for some people, password managers hard for some people. So,
yep.
All good though. All right. So that was number 1. Just heads up on Instagram, if you get a notice saying, hey, you need to do a security checkup, that's a new feature apparently. The second article was in Wired, and this one I thought was interesting. There have been hacks on ATMs before. Typically not typically, but some of the types of things that happen with ATM machines is card skimmers. They'll put a scanner over the top of where you slide in your card, and so it'll steal the cards. There's other ways where ATMs have been hacked and money taken, etc. This latest one is as more and more places will deal with contactless whatever, login or payment, etc. ATM machines, of course, are now using the same type of things. And this is a interesting article that describes a way that a security researcher built an Android app to mimic. You can now go to some types of ATM machines, and instead of inserting your card, just kind of wave it over the reader like you do at the grocery store or any other place that does that. And he built an Android app to mimic that radio communication and leverage the NFC protocol and the firmware to create an exploit, crash the device, collect the credit card data, the interesting one is change the value of the transaction. So even though the screen will say one value, what actually happens underneath is a different value. It's a longer article, and the thing that I thought was that piqued my interest here is, I guess normally we think of, a computer that is connected somewhere, like my laptop's connected to the Wi-Fi, I got hacked, etc. But as we've mentioned many times before, computers are everywhere and wireless protocols are everywhere, and it is software, therefore it is flawed somewhere. So an interesting ATM hack using just pure NFC wireless. Contactless capabilities. So those were the two that I thought were interesting this week.
I'm glancing at this Wired article. I hadn't read that.
Mm-hmm.
Boy,
good times.
All right. I am loving how many places take Apple Pay. I use my watch a lot more than I did a couple of years ago. It's nice.
Oh yeah.
Convenience.
I will say, so to harken back to vacation, there are a lot of food carts and a lot of small, it's tourist, there's a few tourist trap areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all take Square. Everything was contactless payment. It was fascinating to me. It really drove home to me how disruptive Square and those type of payment systems really have been to traditional banking.
Mm-hmm.
It was a realization last week.
Make it trivial.
Yep. It was awesome.
Really nice to be able to pay, at farmers markets at least, and that kind of stuff. Like
exactly.
10 years ago, you'd have to have brought cash.
We bought the tastiest pineapple. It was a white sugar loaf pineapple. It was so good.
Oh,
and the guy took delicious. Square, like on the street corner, right? He had his little Square app.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, dude.
There you go.
That was awesome. Anyways,
that's cool.
There was a little sidebar.
Okay. So I have my first one. I have two. My first one is I assume this was Catalan. It's the record. So this is hundreds of millions of HP, Xerox, and Samsung printers vulnerable to new bug. So this is a defect found by a security researcher at SentinelOne that is 16 years old. So been present in printer drivers code since 2005, and it affects a very long list of over 380 different HP and Samsung printer models, as well as a dozen different Xerox products, is what it says. So I'm sure that it, like my printer would be on the list. I didn't actually look, but it is a ssport.sys. It didn't actually say. Oh yeah, it does say later that some Windows systems. I think if you're on a Mac, you're not vulnerable. You shouldn't be vulnerable to this exact thing. But evidently, it was a generic printer driver called ssport.sys. And given the timing on it with Print Nightmare, which is another thing that's been going on here, and I think we talked about that. Probably should have. But anyway, he must have been doing research on this for long before Print Nightmare was available. But it's kind of interesting that it's kind of coming out at the same time here. But one of the things that is something to watch out for here is that it says that some Windows systems may have had the vulnerable printer driver installed on their machines even without the user's knowledge. If you ever connected a vulnerable printer model, and then the driver may have been delivered via Windows Update. So basically, if you try and add a printer well, you could probably look for this ssport.sys on your system to do that. But if you try and add the printer and it's got the printer driver for one of the vulnerable printer models, then you kind of need to, you may be vulnerable, probably vulnerable. And the fix is to go to the printer manufacturer's website and download, assuming that they're updated for your printer. So I'm glad to see people still looking at this kind of stuff, because it's amazing how much of this kind of archaeological software can kind of continue to be trailed into, current day systems. But this is just the latest in a seems like several disclosures in the recent last couple months where, the vulnerabilities have been around for 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
So it's a nice find.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then my second article for tonight, at least, is I really liked this article. It is a blog post by Matthew Green.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matthew Green. He's a university somewhere, professor at Johns Hopkins University. But I like this because it's kind of. Just in my words, at least, it's about, you still need to keep doing your best and holding companies accountable, even in situations where there's no ability to win entirely. Because at least in my belief, that describes software and software security to a T. You'll never get rid of all the bugs. You'll never have perfect security. But that doesn't mean you don't continue to strive and, continue to sort of walk the asymptote and do the best you can and impose costs on what it takes to actually, run an attack or break into a system.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest news announcements in this past has been the unveiling, doxing of some of the NSO group contact list, supposedly numbers for which various governments around the world have paid this spyware group to monitor. So this is I feel like we've talked about them before in the past a couple of times, but they basically have governments around the world hire them to spy on people. And at least in this leak, the numbers, the targets include journalists and members of various nations' political opposition parties. So, exactly the sorts of people, the privacy advocates and people who are worried about security and for sort of government, let's say mercenary security exploitation software that's sold to non-ethical governments around the world should be worried about, right? I mean, the quote here is, in other words, precisely the people who every thinking person worried would be the target of mass exploitation software that NSO sells. So, and actually I like the next sentence too. And indeed, that should be the biggest lesson of these stories. The bad thing everyone said would happen has. Mm-hmm. So, this is not a political blog. So, he's not talking about what, how governments should behave, but really it's more about how companies, and in particular Google and Apple, can continue to kind of raise the bar and make it harder to scale this type of exploit. Because that's kind of a critical part of this article that I really agree with him on. Is it's not that an exploit exists. It's that, and it's not even necessarily that so many exploits exist, although the number of them is what allows them to kind of ahead and, always be leveraging the next exploit. And if you do it at scale and sell it to enough people, it's going to get burnt. But that's okay if you can continue to build or discover new ones faster than you're burning them. You can as this sort of group, that's what allows them to actually, quote unquote, scale their spyware service.
Mm-hmm.
But if Apple, if Google can raise the bar, both through hardening security, their software, and increasing, this is kind of where there's a delicate balance, increasing the level of detection without breaking privacy, they can make it harder to kind of stay in the shadows and faster to discover, faster to remediate, harder to scale, and therefore limited to who they can work with, can afford. So I pulled out a bunch of other quotes here, but I mostly like this article because I think it really represents what, if you're in security for the long haul, you can never totally win. You just have to be willing to continually bring your A game every day, do the best that you can, try and make it harder and harder and harder to sort of hide in the shadows.
Right.
So I think I kind of talked about the biggest parts of this. So the last kind of thing I think I'll say about this one is, the way Matthew's closing this is basically saying, even though we can't have perfect security, we still need to hold, in this particular case, Apple, but Apple and Google, the large platform providers, responsible because the quote here is, the only people who can fix Apple devices are Apple by their own design. And that means Apple has to feel responsibility each time an innocent victim gets owned while using an Apple device. If we simply pat Apple on the head and say, gosh, targeted attacks are hard, it's not your fault, then this is exactly the level of security we should expect to get, and we'll deserve it. It's not that Apple isn't trying. It's not that Google isn't trying. We need them to try even harder. And in particular, I guess this is a part of the article I didn't actually mention. In particular, need to try and eliminate, very, very hard to eliminate, the sort of drive-by exploitation, the zero-click exploitation, because that's the main thing that allows them to operate in countries around the world where, if you have a network exploit, that's tricky because you have to own the network where the device is connecting to. But if you have an iMessage exploit, that you can just send a malformed text message to somebody and then wait for their device to dial back in because you've had a zero-click iMessage escape. That's ridiculously easy. That should be closed hard. And I think we actually talked about some of the things Apple was trying to do this past year, but there's a lot more to be done. So anyway, this is my second article. I really liked this. It's more philosophical, I guess, than a lot of the ones that I choose, but I liked it.
Yeah.
And if you want to read about more of the NSO group, there's lots of articles going on this week. That
plenty of other collateral.
Exactly. All right. So, how about something fun? What'd you bring me fun tonight?
So I stumbled across this. I did not know it existed. And it has been bugging me because I've been trying to think of how I could actually enter this little competition. Go to sourcecodepoetry.com. And basically, the rules for entering into this contest are you may choose any coding language and or interpreted programming language. The only requirements for the poem, it must be written in that language, it must compile and give some kind of result, must succeed, and it has to rhyme. They have a little asterisk here, but, modern masterpieces may bend the norms, right? So,
3
simple rules. And then if you go down and look at some of the previous submissions, it just looks like a lot of fun trying to come up with a poem that you read. So it has to be read. It's hard to read source. Never mind. You just have to go look at the source code.
Interesting.
And see how to create. It has to be read, so you have to be able to read it. So you can add, strings to get your words in there. While paren code equals can be complicated, paren your code is simple, breaking. So break is the word, and then down below a variable ing_social. So you got breaking social mores. Anyways, it just looks like a lot of fun. So.
Broken tongue, letters scattered, he disappeared, words stammered, pauses, extends, waves in dashes, dot. With many stale colored blots, dreamy flashes, stone-closed doors, blocking sparkling light from before, passing snores in dots and in dashes, darkness blinks in dreamy flashes. With closed doors and falling tears, as colored stones and all my fears, sluttering heart signals blind. Huh.
Yeah. And you can use some of the, like there's a JavaScript one on promises. Promise if I make you a new promise, T, hat, T together, love shall bind us. Then will you catch me as we fall, ? Return my promise, reject the darkness.
This is cool.
It's just fun.
Really cool. I'm just
kind of fun.
Thumping through.
Yeah.
What's
go
the
check
best
out
language to write poetry in?
I don't know.
So far, the ones that look the best are Lisp. I almost said Emacs.
Scheme. So go check out sourcecodepoetry.com. It looks like a lot of fun. That's my something fun this week.
Okay. That's cool. My something fun is the book that I think I mentioned that I was traveling last week, but I forget. So I listened to a book while I was in the airport, on the plane, et cetera, et cetera. And I listened to Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. And it was amazing. So Trevor Noah is the comedian who took over from Jon Stewart on The Daily Show.
Right.
When he took over from Jon Stewart, I was like, you're kind of cool. I really like you. We've continued to watch. My wife and I watch, a lot of the episodes. I guess I wouldn't say we watch every one of them, but he's definitely on the list that we enjoy watching together if we get a chance to kind of watch an hour of late night as we're kind of winding down to bed. And, I knew he was from South Africa. I did not, and I think, he said some things on the show that kind of, were clear that, I guess I knew that growing up from, a black mother and a white father in South Africa in, sort of the tail end of apartheid, that he had a hard life. But, oh my gracious sakes, this book will blow your mind. And I was a Trevor Noah, he's cool. I think I am now like a Trevor Noah fan. I am. Anyway, I kind of don't want to tell you too much about like everything that goes on, but he literally was, it's there in the title. It was a crime for a white man to have sex with a black woman or vice versa. And his mother seems like she was an amazing, or is an amazing woman. And, yeah. So
I remember watching an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, the Jerry Seinfeld shorts with Trevor Noah. And he talked a little bit about that, about growing up in South Africa and how it influenced his comedy. I don't know if you ever watched any of that. I know it was one of my something funs at some point over the last 3 years.
I have watched a couple of those, but not a ton. So I will actually look up the one for Trevor Noah.
Hunt the one down for Trevor Noah. Yeah. I I can see what I feel like I can see what this. Well, I'm gonna have to add this to my reading list. I'm not a list book listener, as we've talked about.
Well, so the thing is, it's hard to know, because I'm sure reading would be good, but listening, he does, he reads it himself. And so it's him telling basically his story.
That might be more interesting.
I have to recommend that you listen to it.
Okay.
But there are parts where, he's talking as comedy and he's telling the story in a funny way, but the story is not funny at all. I mean, it is. What a life. What a life. Oh my gosh. So, go listen to this book. It was awesome. I really, really liked it. So
cool.
There you go. That's my something fun.
Alrighty.
All right.
Next week.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Next week we'll have to try Wednesday. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Exactly. It'll be weird. Back to our normal time. All right. Welcome home. Glad you get to sleep in your own bed tonight. Hope you get a good night's rest. Time to get back to work, man. Get back to work.
Exactly. All right, dude. Have a good night.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.